Hello, everyone, and welcome to Celebrating Cinema, a podcast for the love of cinema. I'm your host, Laura Gommans, and today I am joined by Lab 111's head of cinema, Tom Ooms.
Hello there.
To discuss Christopher Nolan's new film, The Odyssey, coinciding with Lab 111's program called It's Not the Destination, It's the Journey. The program includes some of cinema's great quests and pilgrimages and exiles and returns. This week also marks the opening of our newly renovated Lab 1 screening room, which, as all renovations are, has been a bit of an odyssey in itself. Do you have a hot take about film? A contrarian opinion about a movie everybody loves or a thing that always bothers you in film? We'll read one out at the end of every episode, so send a voice note or write us on Instagram or at celebratingcinema@lab111.nl. But first, here are a few things happening at Lab 111 in Amsterdam. On the 18th of July, we'll have our next cinema aperitivo with a heart-aching screening of Richard Linklater's Before Sunrise, including a small spritz and a selection of Italian snacks. On the 24th, join us for our sing-along edition of Spice World the Movie. Definitely come do that. It is so much fun. And make sure to check our Odyssey Classics re-release of Ousmane Sembène's classic Black Girl. Tom!
Laura!
What have you been up to? What have you been watching?
Been pretty busy with finishing up everything for the renovation after the renovation reopening of Lab 1.
Because we're so back. We're going to be so back. I have to say, like, the last few months, I feel like it's been months, right? It's been many months.
Yeah.
I miss my seat in Lab 1.
Well, you were just in here and you picked your new seat.
Yeah.
What's your specific seat?
So usually I always sit on row 5 on the left side. So if you're looking for me, that's where I'll probably be. But now the layout's a little bit different. So I'm like, well, what's my seat then?
Yeah.
So I kind of had to feel it out.
And our screen is 2 meters more wider.
More bigger.
More bigger than ever.
Yeah, it looks awesome. New carpet. It all looks really cool. So definitely come check that out soon. Is there anything cool you've been watching?
I've been buying a lot of physical media again.
Good choice.
A lot. New Blu-rays. I was missing out on some new boutique labels like Radiance and some other stuff that are like releasing amazing stuff. So I bought a lot of Luchino Visconti, the Italian director that I had seen not a lot of. And yesterday night I saw Le Notti Bianchi, which is a 103-minute, quite short Italian movie that Visconti made between, I think, just after his now considered a masterpiece period drama called Senso that everybody hated when it came out. And Luchino Visconti is an Italian director from the 50s that was one of the sort of pioneers of the neo-realist movement from just after the Second World War. So very much focusing on amateur actors, showing the nitty-gritty of real life after the Second World War. And then he decides to go into other stuff, and he gets the critics sort of pound him for that. And this movie is kind of his return to doing a more neo-realist movie, but he shoots it completely on the Cinecittà set. So it's about a man or about a clerk who in Livorno meets a woman standing on a bridge waiting for her lover to return. But he falls in love with her, and despite being infatuated with her, helps her to find the lover that she's waiting for. But Livorno, in the Italian city in the movie, is completely a set.
Oh, wow.
Which is just this really weird thing that the movie becomes quite a romantic, melodramatic fairy tale already. But the way that it's all fake, their surroundings, even though Visconti does his best to constantly have children playing in the back and like there's stuff happening, he tries to sort of make it into a real city. But it's clear that he knows that it's still a facade, makes the entire movie just super dreamy. It's like you're in this sort of strange dream reality. I thought it was amazing.
Can you just repeat the title for people who just like that caught their attention?
So the English title is White Nights, not like in nights, but in evenings. And the Italian title is Le Notti Bianchi.
Sweet. I'm looking to watch that.
Bit of a plug, but we have an interview with Bjorn Anderson, who was the documentary called The Most Beautiful Boy in the World, who starred in Visconti's other film, Death in Venice.
Yeah.
And sort of the effects of being labeled the most beautiful boy in the world.
Oh,
So
nice.
you can look that up on Spotify somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Check it out. I'm going to check that out.
Laura, what have you been watching?
I mean, I've been very deep in rewatching all of Buffy after Anthony Head passed away. I was like, this is the time I have to go back to Buffy. So I haven't really been watching that many movies. One movie I just want to quickly shout out as a lover of cinema. Gotta say it, Minions vs. Monsters. Minions vs. Monsters. The reason I went to see it is because my partner and I went to see Toy Story 5. And then the trailer before that was Minions vs. Monsters. And I started laughing so hard that I kind of left my body and saw how ridiculous it was, how hard I was laughing at a Minions trailer, which then made me laugh harder. So I was like, I'm definitely going to have to go see this. If you're a parent with a child or just a grown-up child, go see this movie if you love cinema, because it is full of, basically every frame contains a reference to like old cinema. It is very fun.
I know nothing about either Despicable Me 1, 2, 3. Is there a 3?
Four, I think. I don't really like the Despicable Me ones. And I have to say the Minions were never on my radar because I also think, maybe unfairly, they get roped in with that whole like Facebook mom thing of like...
Facebook mom thing?
Yes. So I don't know if you know this, but on Facebook...
Apparently not.
Boomer moms will have these like pictures that have like exercise. I thought you said extra fries. And it has like a minion next to it.
Okay. Yeah.
So I do think that the Minions, because of that, kind of have a bad rep. But I think they're basically just silent film stars. They are slapstick. They are clowns. I didn't realize that. I thought they were very funny.
They just remind me of Angry Birds and...
Of course. Like I think the character design is
crazy
terrible.
frog.
Yeah, no, totally. And that is valid. And that's why I never sought out a Minions movie before. I think I've seen some of the Despicable Me ones. But this is like, oh, this looks like a love letter to cinema. And then it is.
I keep imagining that you're actually Martin Scorsese saying this.
And he would. He would agree with me.
Absolute cinema.
Yes. I think this is the reason we should get Scorsese on the podcast.
To talk about Minions.
I want to know what he thinks. So as we're recording this, we're a couple days ahead of the release of The Odyssey. I saw it yesterday at the premiere. Tom, I believe you haven't seen it yet.
No, not yet.
Okay, why not?
Because I want to see movies together with my girlfriend, and sometimes I've already seen a film and then she hates it that I act as though I haven't seen it yet.
I brought my partner to the premiere yesterday, so...
Usually I only pick films where they're that big that I need popcorn and I don't need colleagues.
Right.
Because, yeah, because usually the programmer screenings or the screenings for programmers are just 6 guys sitting in a room going like, oh yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
What was the premiere like? Did they do anything fancy?
It was at Pathé Arena, which is the biggest one that we have here in Amsterdam. It has an IMAX screen.
Did they screen it in IMAX?
Absolutely.
Oh.
I wouldn't have gone otherwise. I would have said, no, thank you. I want to see it in IMAX because, as we know, Christopher Nolan's made a really big deal out of it to an extent where the poster that we got at the premiere, IMAX looks like it's the title of the movie. If you see the poster, it's like shot in whatever 70mm IMAX. And then at the bottom it says The Odyssey. Just like a small whisper of Odyssey. It's like the whole premise of this movie is it's an IMAX. And I have to say that works.
It's the thing that constantly returns in everything that we're seeing about it right now, right? The whole, we shot it on the biggest cameras possible.
Yes. I thought it was glorious in IMAX. I think it definitely adds something, but also go see it at Lab 111 on our new screen. But I thought it was great. But it's like, then you see this little behind the scenes featurette that they screened before the movie, which I really like that they did that, where you see the absolute beast of a camera that this is. And it's in this box because otherwise it makes this like this noise. So they put it in a giant box and then they can only record 3 minutes at a time because after that they have to replace the tape. And it's like such a process that I'm like, is this worth it for like the 70 screens in the world that can show it?
That can actually screen it that way, yeah.
I think it deserves to be seen on a big format.
Or on 70mm.
Or 70mm. Do you know if there's anywhere in the Netherlands that's doing that?
I Film Museum and Kino.
But that's not IMAX. That's just 70mm.
Can you explain the difference?
The format is just bigger.
Yeah.
So the 70 millimeter is bigger. The IMAX itself is more information.
You just see more of the frame, basically.
That's a good question. I think seen as what they've been sending me in relationship to what kind of format it is, if it's flat or scope or etc. IMAX is the size of the frame is different from what you would call flat or 16:9, or now we're getting really into stupid numbers, but like scope is more like letterbox, etc. But the IMAX screen itself or the format, same thing with 70 millimeter, is just ever so slightly a bit bigger on all sides.
I just realized you mean scope is more like a letterbox rather than the app letterbox.
Yes, 100%.
Yes. Elliot, as long as they're not sponsoring us, we do not need to plug them in that weird way. But yes.
See,
please sponsor us, by the way.
Honestly, you blow my mind. I've been wondering that.
Every day's a school day, and I love that.
But I think maybe the point that we're speaking more about the format maybe speaks a bit about the Odyssey itself as a film.
I mean, okay, so I went in with medium expectations because I really thought everyone's only talking about the IMAX. I don't know if it's going to be any good. And I have to say, going in with low expectations, I was impressed. I liked it. Which, as many people who listen to this podcast or have been following me for a longer time, I often have a problem with Christopher Nolan movies.
Do you?
I also wouldn't ever say that this movie is free of any problems. What I do think Christopher Nolan did with the Odyssey is he probably read the Poe and is like, I see about 6 really fucking cool scenes here. And I think that was probably the basis from which he made this movie, because there are about 6 scenes in it that are really fucking cool.
Do we have to describe what the story of the Odyssey is actually about?
Okay, yeah. So
you can do it in 2 sentences.
King Odysseus goes to war, trying to find his way back home. A lot of stuff happens on the way. And there's
obstacles.
Cyclopsicles.
Cyclopsicles, indeed. Yeah.
Obstacles, cyclopsicles, giants. It is basically almost episodes of a small show, because it is almost a 3-hour movie. And it's like every time they get off a boat somewhere, they run into a thing that happens, and it's a creature or it's a thing. Mm-hmm. And then they have to get back on the boat. And then every time that happens, they lose a few men. And then he's still not home. And he's trying to get home because he has his wife, Penelope, who's kind of been waiting. She's played by Anne Hathaway, by the way. She's kind of been waiting for him to come home. His son, Tom Holland, is also like, well, my dad's been gone for like 20 years. I don't know if he's ever going to come back. Maybe we have to think about like, maybe a king, or who's going to like marry my mom. Yeah, all the while everyone's like, I'm pretty sure he's dead. I'm pretty sure he's not dead. I'm pretty sure he's dead. And there's a lot of legend around King Odysseus.
And they cut back and forth between those two. Yeah,
you basically have the home front, and then you have Odysseus on his Odyssey.
Doing his obstacles.
But it's not done in like the traditional Nolan bullshitty way of I'm going to mess with time. It's much more like memories and flashbacks, but in a more traditional sense.
Yeah, it is in that regard for Nolan film linear.
Yeah.
It is just like we kind of get in. And it's like, Anne Hathaway's like, still not home, damn.
It would be really odd seen as the source material if he would fuck it up with time-wise.
Right. Well, I wouldn't put it past him to just go like...
Is there a lot of people explaining stuff? Because that's the main thing I want to know as somebody going into a Christopher Nolan movie. Is there somebody explaining something that doesn't need to be explained?
So, yes, there are a lot of people explaining things, but I do think it is necessary because there's a lot of people with a lot of very long names. And I didn't study this shit in school. So I'm not very familiar with all these hella long names and what the Trojan War and who all the big players were in the Trojan War and stuff. I'm not familiar with that. So I was really happy that they went like, my name is Menelaus and I am married to Helen of Troy. That's her right there. I'll tell you about how I fought alongside your father 10 years ago and I haven't seen it. So yes, there are a lot of people explaining it to the Tom Holland character who's kind of like a baby. He's like, I'm 20 years old and I'm just trying to find out what I can about my father. So people explain things to him, which makes him kind of a good vessel for people explaining.
He is your way in for the story.
Tom Holland is the way in.
I'm not an expert at all, but in high school I was completely obsessed with Greek mythology, and it's Hercules, Xena warrior princess, and this. You say that he saw 6 great scenes, but the story itself is pretty much that, right? Yeah. And then there's this monster, and then there's that monster.
What I was worried about is that would be hard to put in a movie with an overarching thing. And I do think he did a good job with that, because I spoke to my partner about this yesterday, who is very steeped in this material. And he was like, well, the thing about Odysseus is this story is kind of about hubris. It's about, every single time he gets into one of these situations, he kind of flies too close to the sun and he kind of does a thing too much. And he taunts fate and the gods, I guess. It doesn't really, I would say, match with what Christopher Nolan's trying to say with this movie. But also he can't abandon that part of Odysseus' personality, because then you would get the purists being like, well, you changed everything about this story. So, yeah, every time he gets into a situation, you're like, they made it out. Oh, he did a thing. Why do you have to do that thing? And I think that is a big part of what the Odyssey is originally about.
What do you think Nolan is trying to say?
What I think he's trying to say is war is bad, and we should learn from it. And we've been telling this story for many, many years and centuries, and still we have war. Why? I think that's what Nolan's trying to say.
Yeah. It's quite as simple as that.
Yes. This could have been an email.
The Odyssey. It could have been an email.
One thing that didn't work for me at all is that every single character, and there's like 700 characters in this, was a famous person. It took me out of it a little bit, that every time a new character appears on screen, it's like, oh man, it's John Bernthal. Cool. Oh, look, it's Charlize Theron. She's had a facelift. Good for her. Like, oh, look, it's Zendaya. Oh, look, it's Samantha Morton. But I think that thing did take me out of it a little bit, where I would have loved to see room for some more unknown actors in a movie that is already just going to be this big anyway. I think that is always something I really love about Lord of the Rings, that they just kind of went, we want one famous actor, Sean Connery, which they didn't get. And then everyone else is basically just going to be unknown, and it made all these stars, and it didn't affect how successful the movies were. I think every single person, Mia Goth, Benny Safdie, Elliot Page, like there's so many famous people in it that it becomes like a gimmick.
And you see them playing the characters rather than...
Yes.
And that's why you hate the Dune franchise, right?
Dune's different. After a first sold-out screening of Sign of the Times, the series returns. In case you missed it, this is our night where film critic Hugo Emerzaal and Dan Hassler-Forrest pick a film from the century so far. Anything from art house to glorious pulp, and they use it to ask how the 21st century has shaped cinema. On the 20th of August, they present the Coen brothers' No Country for Old Men, and they trace how it foresaw the darkening of American life, toxic masculinity, and this new kind of nihilism. You can find tickets via the link in the show notes. Well, the Odyssey is just one of the many epic journeys you can see right now at Lab 111, because we have a whole program devoted to Odysseys of any kind in cinema. Tom, you put this program together. Can you tell me a little bit about what inspired this season? Because we did a road trip season before, recently. How is the Odyssey different from road trip?
So the road trip thing we did last year in the summer, and people really enjoyed that. I thought I want to do something along the lines of that, but it needs to be something a bit different. And the Odyssey, like the Homer tale, is more a spiritual journey in a way. So I wanted to pick films that are very much more like spiritual quests, or going from one place to another and evolving, characters evolving, catharsis.
Not necessarily in a car.
And not necessarily them being in a car.
Yeah, because we talked about a little bit beforehand how like a road movie kind of has that system built in of like someone's going from point A to point B, and in the meantime they also spiritually they learn something, or there's a hero's
I think
journey
the sort of the road movie itself is a very nice vehicle for a narrative journey that goes from, well, for a character development to go from place A to B.
What are some of your personal favorites on this program?
Well, the funny thing was that actually a lot of films in this program are films that we also couldn't screen before or during the period that we had smaller rooms, because they cost a lot of money, like Werner Herzog's Aguirre, Wrath of God, or Walkabout that I never screened before, the Australian movie, something like Embrace of the Serpent, which is a rather more recent movie that's in there. Those were all films that actually I didn't really have the funds for screening it for like 50 people. So now that we have 128 when the new room is opened, it's kind of sort of also a treat to ourselves and to our audience that we can now add more diverse titles to a program like this.
Yeah.
But geez, if you ask me like for my favorite one in there, I mean, you have Oh Brother Where Art Thou? Not that it's necessarily one of my favorites, but I think that's more the cleanest connection to the Odyssey, because it practically is the Odyssey.
For me, that's like in my top 10 favorite movies.
Yeah?
I love that movie.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. You know what I'm really interested in revisiting is The Green Knight, because I remember when it came out, I really didn't like it. And I would just be interested in revisiting it now and seeing how I feel about it. Because I feel like it is a movie that, in hindsight, I do think about sometimes.
Yeah.
Which, you know, there's movies that you really love in the moment and then just like disappear from your consciousness entirely. And this is a movie that almost like, I was like, well, what the fuck was that?
That's why Beau is Afraid is in this selection.
Movie.
Because that's a movie I think about way too often.
As two people who, I will shake your hand right now, suffer from anxiety, this is a movie that I think about almost every day. Beau is Afraid is a movie I think about almost every day. As an anxious person, this is just like, it's like our national anthem, but it's a movie.
Yeah, it is like a panic attack.
For people who don't know, that it's the Ari Aster movie with Joaquin Phoenix, kind of like making his way through life. He has to get to his mom's house, but he kind of like, he's incredibly anxious. Yeah. And it is very much like an Odyssey, where he just like walks into these different chapters and a new super anxiety-inducing thing happens. And it is batshit crazy.
Yeah, and it's one of those films that I think, so I saw it in a programmer screening, and one of my best friends, a programmer for cinema in Rotterdam, we came out of the screening and looked at each other and said exactly the same thing what you just said. We were like, what the fuck was that? And also somebody came up to us and like, was it good? And we were like,
we don't know yet.
We don't fucking know. And I still don't know.
Yeah.
I like watching.
I think it's about an hour too long.
Oh, it's way too long. But the funny thing is, it's 3 hours and 5 minutes, I think. Yeah. And for the entirety of those 3 hours, it's thoroughly entertaining.
Oh my God,
you're glued to the screen, but it's incredibly incoherent. Stuff sometimes just happens. You wonder if there is any meaning to it. Yeah, it's such a bizarre, but it is really an experience, and it is very much in itself, even in the way that you experience it in that way, an Odyssey.
Yeah.
You know, it's a journey.
And maybe the fact that it is so long actually keeps you in that place of anxiety that when you walk out of the theater, it really feels like you went through something.
Yeah.
And what I'm excited to see is The Seventh Seal, because I have not seen that before.
Really?
And it is one of those things where, you know, when you care about film history and there's a movie like this and you haven't seen it yet, it feels wrong to just be like, well, it's Tuesday afternoon, I'm going to take a bath and throw it on the laptop.
Yeah.
You know, so I've been kind of waiting for that.
It used to be one of my favorite films. The opening of that movie is one of the most perfect scenes you've ever seen.
Can you tell the listener, because it's the Ingmar Bergman movie, you know it from the thing that's been parodied 1,000 times.
Exactly. You know it from Ted and Bill's Bogus Journey. Yeah.
And Animaniacs, I think, or things like that.
Of course. Yeah. No, it's a knight returning from the Crusades, and he, due to his entire time there, has started doubting his belief in God. And then while chilling at the beach with his chessboard, suddenly death appears out of nowhere. And there's a beautiful Swedish exchange of the guy in the black with the white face that everybody knows. And the knight says, "Demetu," like, who are you? And then the sorry, your Swedish is better than mine. And he says, "I'm deaf," and the knight goes, that I know. It's also kind of funny, really. It's a really weird exchange. Have you come for me? Yeah, I've come for you. Yeah, my body is ready, but my mind is not. That thing in Swedish, I always wanted to have as a tattoo when I was younger.
Don't do that.
No, I won't.
I mean, for anyone who has that tattoo, that's a super cool tattoo to have.
And yeah, if you're an emo kid, it's fine.
I just don't think Tom should get a tattoo. That's more a Tom thing than a...
But then they decide, the deaf is there to, take him out of the land of the living. And the knight says, you know what? We're going to play chess for this. Pick your piece. Oh, it's black. And the deaf says, like, he's a really arrogant dick. He's just like, oh, well, that's great. That kind of makes sense. Yeah. And then the entire film is very much a reckoning about faith. And one of the most beautiful portrayals of the Dark Ages you've ever seen. It's not that long. It's actually
96, 96 minutes.
People always think that Bergman is this sort of long, laborious, pretentious stuff, but actually his movies are quite, how would you say that? Behapbaar in Dutch?
Behapper. You self-appeal.
So and that's actually also one that I couldn't screen for a long time because of the cost of the film, and I'm really happy to have back.
Other things that are back are things like The Wizard of Oz. We have Stalker back, and then a whole bunch of other things that we haven't screened before. So definitely check out the full program at lab111.nl. So for the hot take segment, remember you can always send us a voice memo on social media, or you can email us a voice memo at celebratingcinema@lab111.nl. Today we have an email, which is also a possibility. This week we have one from Carolina. It's an email and I will read it out. Carolina says, here's my hot take. I really dislike The Shape of Water. I didn't find the main character or the monster interesting. The main villain is basic. The masturbating scenes were just extra. The movie had a really basic structure with a predictable plot. It didn't say anything new and it didn't make me feel anything. But it has a 3.7 on Letterboxd and it won an Oscar, which I just don't get why. Maybe I'm missing something, Carolina says. What do you think? Are you a big lover of The Shape of Water, Tom?
No. I think it's a mid-film. So Carolina, you're in the right, you're in the good, you're in the clear.
Why I think it won an Oscar is because of the Oscars ranked voting system. What happens with the Best Picture voting is that basically you have 10 nominees in Best Picture. Everyone who votes for the Academy, which is about 10,000 people, kind of goes, okay, this is my most favorite, then it's my second favorite, my third favorite, up to 10. And then they go, okay, this is the one with the least amount of votes now. We'll scratch that one and we'll go to the next one. If that was your number one, we'll now look at your number two. And that kind of happens.
And then they stack that?
So it's basically, if The Shape of Water was your number one and it got the least amount of votes, they look at your number two. If your number two didn't get the most votes. So like, it just kind of gets added to the one that the most people can agree on, which is something we talked about a few weeks ago with the IMDb.
The Shape of Redemption.
The Shapeshank Redemption.
Yeah,
we talked about this a few weeks ago with the IMDb top 250. Shawshank Redemption is the movie that the most people can agree on is nice.
Yeah.
And I think that happens a lot with Best Picture. We're like, why didn't this one win? It was an amazing movie. Maybe that movie has a lot of ops. Maybe a lot of people hated that movie. And so what happens a lot with Best Picture, it's just the movie that the most people could agree on is nice. Also,
this is how Green Book wins.
This is how Green Book wins, but also the Academy loves Guillermo del Toro. Whoa, let's say that name again. Guillermo del Toro. I don't know why I fucked that up so bad. They love him, that little guy, and he is so sweet. But yeah, his movies tend to do really well.
He made two amazing movies. They're called Pan's Labyrinth and Blade 2. This is my hot take, Carolina. All his other stuff is okay, but I'm not a huge Guillermo del Toro fan. So yeah, I also think sometimes ratings on Letterboxd aren't everything. I'm more interested in the curve of Letterboxd than the end result. I want to see. Oh, you mean like the sort of aggregate score that something can get? So I want to see, does it have a lot of 1 star or a lot? We had a whole episode about this, so I'm not going to regurgitate this, but it's like, yeah, a 3.7 is really good. Yeah, that's because I think most people gave it 3.5 or 4 stars. This is why I love the 6.8 on IMDb, because that means that the half of the people gave it 1 star and the half of the people gave it 10 stars. Yeah. Figure out on what side you are. Exactly. Well, thanks so much for listening to this episode. You can find links to buy tickets to all of the movies we discussed in the show notes. Enjoy them in our newly renovated Lab 1 screening room. Next week, we'll have 2 episodes for you. On Tuesday, we have a special interview where Elliot speaks to the son of Ousmane Sembène to discuss the legacy of his father's films in African cinema, coinciding with the 60th anniversary Odyssey Classics re-release of his seminal classic Black Girl. And accompanying that, on Thursday, Kiriko chats with filmmaker and archivist Jenna Basacco about why Black Girl is her favorite film of all time. Stay connected with us at Celebrating Cinema and Lab by following at Lab111 on Instagram and Letterboxd. Do you love what we do? Support us by leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps us climb the ranks of the podcast charts. This was a Lab 111 production, edited and produced by Elliot Bloom, and co-produced by myself, Laura Gommans. Music comes from Hugo Emertsal, and the artwork is by Studio FFF.